you've always had to have the use of another quarterback at some point during the season. You don't want that, and you're dealing with a very young, healthy, strong quarterback and Dak Prescott. But that's the reason you have backup quarterbacks. I've paid a lot of money for a backup quarterback, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
And this, by the way, as it turns out, is going to be the record for having paid this for the backup quarterback.
Paycheck jokes. I don't know. I was raised to never talk about somebody else's money, but what do you think? It's sensitive?
Well, first of all, in the interest of fairness, because I want to be fair, Jerry Jones did make those comments before Tony Romo's, dare I say, emotional speech reading, scenario with the media and the public. So I want to be sensitive. I would say that I was a bit more sensitive to Jerry Jones. I mean, when you think about it, Jerry Jones is smiling, and he has suffered a lot. There is no doubt about that. And I think that we see a situation right now where where Jerry Jones is so happy. The Cowboys are winning. Not only is he making money because they're worth over $4 billion, not only is he making money, but finally, it's actually justified because it's not hype that has the Dallas Cowboys, really leading the news wires and the airways and all that stuff. It's their actual productivity on the field for only the second time in 20 years, as far as I'm concerned. So I look at it from that perspective, and I understand how Jerry Jones is so happy. I'm just saying that I was a little taken aback because it is his adopted son we're talking about here, Tony Romo. I imagine that if Tony Romo showed his emotion to us, he clearly showed it to Jerry. And knowing that, I would expect Jerry to be a little bit sensitive, but Jerry Jones reminded us all of the business extraordinaire that he is, and that business takes precedence over personal feelings. Damn it, I'm paying you the paycheck. You're still gonna go to your house, your mansion, and somewhere in Texas, all right? You're still gonna wear the uniform for the rest of the year. You're gonna get paid, everything's good, but damn it, I'm moving on. That's what Jerry Jones is basically saying, and I understand.
Stephen A., Molly, Damian, I think Jerry Jones has handled this situation perfectly from the get-go. He made a calculation, which was, look, I'd love for the Cowboys to be like 8-1 by the time Tony Romo comes back. Probably not going to happen. Let me support Tony Romo because we're going to need him eventually. When he gets healthy, it's going to be his team again. But you know what? If we are like 8-1, that's a good problem to have. May I have the problem, please, that I have to sit there looking like a little bit of a hypocrite about, like coming back off my Tony Romo comments and now throwing my support off Dak. Like, may I please have those problems, oh football gods? And he got them. I mean, it was unlikely. I don't care how good you are. It's unlikely that any team is ever 8-1, after 9 games. But there they are. So he supported Romo the whole time. Then they even kind of delayed. Is Romo healthy? Is he? Oh, my Dak Prescott's hurt. His Dak Prescott keeps acting up. And eventually it's like, look, the guy is ready to play. He's practicing. He's throwing the ball well, everything. Is he gonna play or not? And when it was time to cross that bridge, Jerry Jones is like, well, I guess I got the problem I wanted. Nope, he ain't playing because that's not how it works in the NFL. If you're 8-1 and the kid's playing well, he will continue to play. I don't know how much better Jerry Jones could have played this whole thing.
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Didn't I tell you last week? I told you last week about how this Cowboy situation. You swore up and down on the camera last week. Jerry Jones can't help himself. He's going to put Tony Romo back in there. And look what's happening. Look what's happening. Jerry Jones got it made right now. Got Dak Prescott. Yeah. We can go back and check the tape because you were the main one talking about, Jerry Jones can't help himself, and he's going to throw Tony Romo back in the mix. And look what's happening now. But when we talk about this Cowboys situation, I had a similar situation in New England.
Okay.
When Tom Brady, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt against the Jets, Tom Brady comes in. Obviously, the whole situation played itself out. And guess what? Tom Brady got hurt in the AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And who came in to save the day? Drew Bledsoe. So that's why this whole situation is beautiful, because anyone who's watched the Dallas Cowboys over the years, especially the past couple of years when Tony Romo's been hurt, they've just been abominable at the quarterback position. They haven't been able to do what a backup quarterback is supposed to do, and that's hold down the fort until the starter gets back. So if you're Jerry Jones right now, you got your feet kicked up, you drinking lemonade, knowing that I got a rookie baller right now, a 4th-round draft pick, I believe, that's carried this team to 8-1, that's playing at an elite level, and my backup is an elite quarterback that's going that can hold it down.
He addressed me, man.
They can hold it down.
Damian Woody, when I spoke last week, you're absolutely right. I said exactly what you said I said, but I didn't stop there. You see, this is the beauty of being a journalist as opposed to a football player. See, you know your football. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I know how to record.
Okay.
The expertise of football players, part of the job I had. And I also know how to record myself. I specifically said this season, not this week. My point is they got 7 games to go. Baltimore's next, Washington's after that. You got road games with Minnesota and the Giants. You got Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Philadelphia. Now, the last game is January 1st. That's the new year.
Okay.
That means I got till the new year until you could say the statements that you just stated. Because the fact of the matter is I never said to you, oh, that's next week. I said to you, trust you me, Jerry Jones can't help himself. You better believe you're going to see Tony Romo again this year. That is what I said. Okay. So you tried to sit up there very adroitly, I might add, elocuted yourself very, very nicely. You didn't try to sit up there and confuse me, force me to need a dictionary like Max does. You were very, very directed to the point. But in the end, you basically misquoted me because I got until the new year. Am I right, Molly Wood?
You do.
I got until the new year.
He thinks he can still get in.
It's January. It's November, bro.
But guess what? Guess what? I'm gonna be here every week.
I said that. But don't act like I said it now. I said I didn't say it now.
So every week I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna look you right in the eye, and I'm gonna count it down.
And I'm gonna count it down for both of y'all because you don't listen. You're hard-headed too, Max. You know better than you're probably contaminated, and Max. You probably this is your fault. You probably did it. It don't matter because I see what's happening. You have been huddling. You huddle with the researcher. You huddle with Molly Wood. You huddle with the NFL aficionados and what you do. You mingle with them, all right? And y'all conspire against me.
You're
but I'm up for it. I'm up for it. You will see Tony Romo again.
You are so full of it. We've never huddled.
Please.
You are so full of it. Way to switch the narrative like Phil
Not only do I not huddle with anyone, but I would like a recount of that election the other day when you won 51-49. I believe I won the popular vote. That's beside the point.
Don't matter. I got electorals.
I want to just say that I'm glad that you, Damian Woody, and Jerry Jones, who obviously watches First Take, and everyone else in the world has finally come around to my way of thinking. What I said weeks and weeks and weeks ago is the issue for the Dallas Cowboys was last year and has been in recent years the lack of a real backup quarterback. And what Dak Prescott means for them is they finally found their backup quarterback. The only thing that's throwing people is it's not the guy they thought it would be. The backup is Romo. Not going to be next year because he's owed too much money to save the money on the salary cap when they cut him in June, which will surely happen. But until then, they got a guy sitting on the bench where if the starter gets hurt or collapses in terms of productivity, they can bring a guy in off the bench and succeed. And just because his identity is different than you thought it was, just because it's Tony Romo who's the backup, don't let that throw you. I've been saying this for weeks, and I'm glad that you and Jerry Jones and others are coming around to my way of thinking.
What? Go ahead, man. I'm going to give you the last word, maybe. Hurry up.
I'm just glad. It's really about time that you guys start listening to me because I come on the show, and I preach the football gospel on the show. But y'all been resisting what I've been trying to say, what I've been trying to tell you.
Because I don't trust you.
Thank you for the good word.
I don't trust you.
But you know what?
I'll be honest with you.
I heard from Max, I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, when you basically said what I said. So I'm like, okay, now I know we vibing. Yeah. Now I'm starting to get it from you. Now you starting to understand.
I've been messing with you for years, and I'm gonna keep messing with you. I ain't gonna never stop. That's number one. Number two, here's the deal. In the end, while we on the subject, you see, the problem is you a problem. because you have changed your stripes. You know, you sliding over to the Cowboys. You're a former Patriot. Do you know this man said Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff 14 months from now? Do you realize that? About 14
right
months
from now.
He said Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff. He's going to literally be garbage in 14 months. That's what he says. And you find yourself agreeing with him and siding about the Cowboys? You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself.
There's no agreeing when you making the initial points. You guys are following me.
Let's admit this. He has a wealth of football information. There is no two ways about that.
Yes, he gave us the good word.
Spot Kellerman, we appreciate your adage.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, we good? Thank you, Damian. Coming up next, will we ever see him in a Dallas Cowboys uniform again?
I think you might. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying. I think it's entirely possible that Tony Romo will be seen against this season.
Make the call, yes or no.
Then you can say, I told you so.
Let me tell you why. I think, and I'm certainly not wishing injury. First of all, I'm proud of and a fan of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. I may not like the damn uniform they're wearing, but the young brothers doing their thing. Nobody's more prouder than me. Having said all of that, it is football. I think that Dak Prescott's going to get some hats put on him because people are tired of seeing him flossing while the Cowboys are flowing. They're having a problem with that. I think you could see they're going to get at him. That's number one. Number two, no matter how hard they tried, there's been suspect teams they've been going against. And more importantly, the more you play, the more footage there is on you. You got to figure out a way to stop Ezekiel Elliott in that offensive line. And that's easier said than done, no doubt. But the flip side is, as it pertains to Dak Prescott, I think it's one of those situations where cats are going to figure him out as the season wanes and more is on the line. And I definitely do believe, even if this max him getting benched so Tony Romo could come in to finish a game, even without him losing his starting job. The question is specifically pertaining to, will we see Tony Romo in a Cowboys uniform again this season on the field? I believe something's going to happen where we will see that. Okay, I don't know what, but I believe that.
We both think it's possible, but your call is yes, we're going to see him, and my call is no, we're not going to see him. First of all, just to go back to something you said in the previous debate, you know, a rookie quarterback gets hot. When a rookie quarterback gets hot, the situation may be that we're just looking at a great player. I mean, I
think Dak Prescott's going to be great.
And Dak Prescott has looked this way. I hate saying it. I hate the Cowboys. I'm a Giants fan. Dak Prescott has had the look since his first preseason game. The guy just looks like the goods in the pocket. Look, I mean, he has star appeal at the very least. Maybe that's because of a great offensive line, but I think that has a lot to do with Dak Prescott as well. In terms of whether we'll see Tony Romo in the uniform again, here are the possibilities. A Dak Prescott injury, obviously no one wishes that on Dak Prescott. A Cowboy collapse, which I am rooting for very hard. Lose 3 of the next 4 games or something like that. Let the Giants pick up a game on them before Week 13, and the Giants beat them head-to-head in Week 13, and Dak has played poorly in at least 2 of those games between now and then. And maybe then all of a sudden Romo has his job back. But barring something like that, which is less likely than more likely, the only other way I can see is if late in the season, let's say there are 2 games left and the Cowboys have a 3-game lead, at some point, do you want to risk Dak Prescott in those games? And might they want to keep Romo sharp in the event that something does happen to Dak in the playoffs? Maybe you see Romo there. That's really, I think, the more likely possibility of seeing him. Otherwise, June 1st, they cut him and they save $54 million against the cap. That was always the way this was going to play out.
Look, damn it. If somebody asked me if Max Kellerman is going to wear a black suit, I'm going to say yes. I ain't going to go to the litany of reasons as to why that is. It is what it is. Just blue today. It was black the other day, gray the other day.
Right.
That's what you going to wear.
That's right.
So I'm not going to sit up there and give you a multitude of maybes and possibilities as to why. If somebody tell me that Molly Wood is going to be dressed in a black dress today, but tomorrow she's going to be rocking a fly pantsuit or whatever, I'm going to say, oh, yeah. That's how she goes.
Range.
I said off the top, my call is we will not see Romo.
All I'm saying to you is this. You said off the top, but then you went into a litany of reasons of why it's possible. I'm telling you right now, you're going to see Tony Romo. You're going to see him. Trust me on this. Why? Because it's really what Jerry Jones wants at his core. Not beyond this year because of the money. You're absolutely right. But I'm talking about right now. Somehow, some way.
What makes you think that's really what Jerry Jones wants?
Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? The Dallas Cowboys are winning, right? Mm-hmm. But I got news for you. Tony Romo, if for no other reason because of the haphazard roller coaster tendencies that he has, makes him more box office than Dak. And let me tell you something, if Jerry Jones could win while at the same time getting his adopted son, because we all know that his last name should be Jones, Tony Jones. That should be Tony Jones. By the way, that was a character from General Hospital years and years ago. But I digress. My point is, Tony Jones, that's what his name should be.
I ask again, Stephen A. I think we need to
he's going to play. We need to just clarify something.
What? I asked the other week, but I think people should hear it again. When you are that definitive about something, for example, Jerry Jones wants it to be Tony Romo.
Yes.
Generally, if you're talking about
I've been
NBA,
told that.
Right.
I've been told that. I've been told that, but it's from people who believe it, per se. Only Jerry Jones truly knows. I'm telling you what I personally believe. I personally believe Jerry Jones knows Dak Prescott is the future. He is ecstatic to have Dak Prescott. He's going to love on Dak Prescott, there's no doubt. But if Jerry Jones, and I've been told this, I have been told this, and I believe it wholeheartedly, if Jerry Jones could have his way, somehow, some way, they would win while Dak and Tony Romo found a way to shine in the process because he desperately wants Tony Romo to get a piece of this joy. Joy he thinks he's going to have. They will fall.
That's fair.
They will crumble. They will not win the Super Bowl. I can promise you that, okay? But if Jerry Jones had his way, and they were going to ascend to the promised land,
but are you
he would want Tony Romo there.
But are you suggesting that he would use the influence and the power he has as owner to push it in that direction?
No.
In that case, he's just wishing like a fan would wish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
but that's where his heart is.
But he will flex his muscle if Dak struggles.
Yep.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
We'll leave it there. I feel for Tony Romo, but it's hard not to root for Dak. When you hear Dak's story, it's hard not to root for him as well.
But you feel for Romo.
I do. Very classy, vulnerable, transparent.
This man has no feelings.
You know what?
I'm not a stone cold killer like you.
No, I'm not that way. You have touched me, Molly. I mean, you have touched my sensitive side. Maybe I was a bit cruel to Tony Romo. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it, but it is what it is.
Actor?
Huh?
Aren't you a soap opera actor?
Well, it's Brick on General Hospital.
Yeah.
It's Brick on General Hospital. But we all know I ain't acting when I'm doing First Take, baby.
We
That's
know
what
that.
I feel. But Brick is showing back up on General Hospital in the near future. My man Maurice Bernard, Sonny Corinthos, he's doing it up right now.
Can't
he's
wait.
doing it up.
League sources are telling ESPN that the Bucks, Grizzlies, and Mavs have moved away from Donald Trump-branded hotels in New York City and Chicago in an effort in part to avoid an implied association with the president-elect. Sources say another Eastern Conference team contracted to stay at the Trump Soho in New York this season has likewise already decided to switch to a different property in Manhattan when its current contract expires at season's end. While 7 other teams told ESPN that they still are scheduled to stay at Trump-branded properties this season. Stephen A.?
I'm not surprised. Milwaukee Bucks, Jason Kidd is your coach. Memphis Grizzlies, they got my man Fizdale, who's a new coach, assistant in Miami, from a former assistant in Miami. Great guy. Rooting for him, think he's going to do an outstanding job as a coach. And, of course, the Dallas Mavericks are owned by Mark Cuban. And one of the most conscientious human beings that I've come to know over the years is a guy by the name of Rick Carlisle. Very tight with Tony Robbins, by the way. Not surprised at it at all. But let me say this, and I'll be the first to admit that this may be somewhat controversial and all of this other stuff, but I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Doesn't mean much to me. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump ran for election for 18 months. There was nothing that he said in the last week before he won the presidency, you understand, that alarmed you, that didn't alarm you or shouldn't have alarmed you the 15 to 16 months prior. You understand? Where was all the activity then? Where was all the uproar then? And that's something that I think is incredibly important. Now, I'm not going to get on the air and denigrate our president-elect. He's our president. That's what it is. It is what it is. Everybody else can do that. That's fine. What I pay attention to is what we're doing as a community. I've spoken about Colin Kaepernick and how hypocritical and now useless I think he is because after all of that noise he made, he didn't vote. Mike Evans, who I like, plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It would have been nice had he voted, considering the protest that he wanted to make after Trump was elected. But you didn't activate yourself in the election as our president.
We'll get into that more a little bit later.
We'll get into that a little bit later. So that definitely is true as well. But I bring all of that up because it's important to point out 43% of eligible voters elected not to vote. About 2 million less African Americans voted for Hillary Clinton than voted for Barack Obama, which means that Pennsylvania, Florida, Wisconsin may have been won had they activated themselves in that election. Immigrants, both legal and illegal, have been raving and roaring about Donald Trump, okay? But he got 29% of the vote. So I'm sitting there, I'm going like this, something's wrong here. And when I see the noise that people are making right now, it's typical to me. Too little, too late. There are a lot of things that, now maybe the NBA season wasn't going on at that time, but it was going on last year when some of that rhetoric was going on. It was going on last year. They played, didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. Dismissed it, didn't take.
Well, I mean, part of that is you said last week that the media seemed to be pro-Hillary and anti-Donald Trump. But in fact, in their coverage, they created a false equivalency between one person who was appealing to tribal kind of politics and talking about a ban on Muslims entering the country, a religious test essentially to get into this country. Give us, you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses yearning to be breathe free unless they're Muslims. I mean, like, that wasn't covered to the extent that Hillary's trumped-up email scandal was.
I disagree. Well, go ahead.
Not even close.
I disagree.
Even though, I mean,
Totally
SNL did a skit on it. It was so hilarious, the kind of disproportional coverage. Being helped by a hostile foreign power in Russia, et cetera,
we disagree.
All these things were not covered by the media to the extent. So that's one thing, maybe keeping people less than enthused about supporting the other side or fighting against Trump. And another thing was the polls, with the exception of Nate Silver, 538, ESPN's very own Nate Silver, who said, look, there's like a 1 in 3 chance Trump can win this election. All the other polls and everybody else, all the other so-called experts were decrying Nate, were really deriding Nate's polls.
All the pollsters should be fired.
And
all of them are wrong.
Saying he's just trying to drive traffic to his website. Nonsense like this, when he actually, watching that, made me think people need to get politically active, but I think there was a false sense of security that Trump can't really win the election. Well, guess what? He won, and he won on a wave of populist anger. And I think those who say, in the NBA and other places, who say, even if it was just rhetoric, even if it was just Machiavellian, the ends justify the means, and how he governs will be different and be a unifier instead of a divider, though it doesn't tend to happen that way with people who get elected on a wave of populist anger. Even if that's the case, that's not okay with us. You can't use that kind of rhetoric and have us support you or legitimize you in any way. 1. 2, there are others who will say that, no, if he governs differently than the rhetoric, then we will eventually not boycott the hotels, but that remains to be seen.
And I'm saying to you, you're missing the point. I believe you're missing the point because at the end of the day, it was a combination of arrogance in terms of there's no way he's going to win, and disregarding, taking for granted he was going to lose. There's no way like somebody like that would win this election. Somebody spewing that rhetoric, which is something he never spewed prior to running for election, by the way. My point to you is that, to my knowledge, I've been around him a lot of times, a lot of Shaq and other sports figures. We've been around him. We never heard that stuff.
By the way, I've had him on the radio. He was a very good guest.
We never heard it. We never heard that until he ran for election. My point to you is this. At the end of the day, the reason why I take the position that I take is because if people had activated themselves in this election, then we wouldn't be sitting here worried about this stuff. They took for granted he was going to lose, and now they upset that he won when it's their fault that he won because they weren't active. They weren't active in all of this. They did it. They did it.
About that,
all right, then own it. That's all I'm saying. Own it.
Let's stay with that and with this subject, and I want to address the Mike Evans angle that you brought up. So in a protest of Donald Trump being elected president, Bucs wide receiver Mike Evans chose to sit for the national anthem on Sunday. On Tuesday, he had a change of heart, telling our Josina Anderson this. I want to start by apologizing to all the U.S. military members, their families, and the fans who I offended by my actions on Sunday. It was never my intention, as I have tremendous respect for the men and women who serve our country. I have very strong emotions regarding some of the many issues that exist in our society today. I chose to sit as an expression of my frustration towards this year's election. It was very personal for me, as it was for so many Americans. With that being said, I will not sit again during the national anthem because I want to focus my efforts on finding more effective ways to communicate my message and bring about change by supporting organizations and movements that fight for equal rights for minorities. Evans indicated on Instagram that, like Colin Kaepernick, he didn't vote. So, Stephen A., you are very hard on Colin Kaepernick for the same thing. Does Evans look better or worse right now?
Well, I think he looks better, but he doesn't look good. He doesn't look as bad as Colin Kaepernick because he didn't instigate a national dialogue and cause a national divide by the position that he took. He reacted to a result he didn't like, and whether we agree or disagree with it, in the end, it just wasn't consistent with what he's saying his position is, because he's saying we can't stand for this, we need to change, but you did nothing to facilitate that change. In the case of Colin Kaepernick, I believe it was the Sacramento Bee, correct me if I'm not sure I'm accurate about this, but I believe it was the Sacramento Bee who revealed that even before the protest, Colin Kaepernick hadn't even registered to vote. You didn't register to vote. You take a position where you kneel for the national anthem. You want to bring attention to it. You're talking about you won't change until there's change, but you did nothing to facilitate change when it really, really counts. There is nothing, absolutely, positively nothing. Our historians, particularly individuals within the African-American community, will be the first to tell you there is no instrument that we have available to us to provoke change more powerful than to vote. When you combine that with the fact that you've got guys like James Carney and Goodwin and Schwerber, individuals from the civil rights era in 1964 in Mississippi, they made the movie Mississippi Burning out of it. These three individuals were abducted and murdered. Took 44 days to find their bodies while they were trying to get African Americans to register to vote in the South. You know something about your history. That's right. You know something about your history, and you turn around and you ignore all of that, and you slap historians in the face like that by not electing to vote and then going to announce to the world that you don't vote. That is shameful. It's unforgivable.
But Mike Evans
did not do that.
No, but Mike Evans looks worse than Kaepernick.
Okay, how?
Because Kaepernick's position to me seems naive. The idea that there's an equivalency between candidates and it wouldn't have an effect on black or brown lives that he claims matter is, to me, naive and misinformed, maybe is a better way to say it. But Mike Evans looks worse here because at least Kaepernick was consistent. Even as pressure came, he stuck to his guns. Now, he eventually went from sitting to kneeling after a discussion, with a member of the armed services who wanted to appeal to his sense of patriotism, if not nationalism. Hey, people are going to misinterpret this as you're saying something against the military. Kaepernick said, okay, let's come to a compromise where my conscience is okay, but I'm not offending people as much. I don't see that as the same kind of backing down as Mike Evans here. Let's look at this. Mike Evans didn't vote. He is a public figure in a swing state. In fact, more than anything, that swung the election, Florida. He votes in Texas, a red state, but he's a public figure in a swing state who doesn't vote and now makes it public that he didn't vote.
Afterward.
Yeah, afterward, that's true. Still, it's apathetic. He stands up for his principles at first, not in a general way. He's protesting Trump specifically.
Right.
And the message there is, I'm not going to allow this kind of behavior that we saw in the election and the kind of things that Trump said be normalized in American life because a lot of people voted for him. I'm going to stand up to that. Well, good for you. That's standing up for you. Oh, wait, there's a little bit of pressure. There's a little bit of backlash. Okay, I'll sit back down again. That looks doubly bad because he doesn't vote, public figure in a swing state, votes in a red state, so maybe it remains red because people like him who feel that way aren't voting, and then backs down as soon as there's a little pressure.
He backed down. It wasn't that he backed down, in my opinion, because of the pressure. He backed down because he realized how hypocritical his position looked because he hadn't voted and he was doing more harm than good to the very cause he was addressing. That's realizing the error of your ways and standing down. In the case of, and not only that, especially when your protest is of a specific individual and the rhetoric that he was spewing, that's entirely different. In the case of Colin Kaepernick, you essentially indicted a nation. You talked about the United States of America. You had a problem with what this country stands for, what it is about. You questioned whether or not it was living up to the values it spews, and then turned around and confessed that even though you felt that way and took that position, in the same place, you took no stance when it comes to activating and exercising your inalienable right to create the change you said you wanted. That is much worse than Michael Evans. That is much worse than Mike Evans.
There was a teaching moment here that Mike Evans could have participated in had he said, instead of backing down because he appeared hypocritical, I made a mistake. I didn't vote. I disenfranchised myself in a sense already.
He did that with his actions.
I will not make that mistake again. And now what I can do is at least stand up and protest.
And I'm telling you, he did that with his actions. What the hell has Colin Kaepernick done? He sat up there, took a position.
No, he looks like he caved now, Mike Evans.
You might say he looked like he caved, but the point is he stood down because he recognized he made a mistake. The bottom line is Colin Kaepernick saw absolutely nothing wrong with not voting. Absolutely nothing wrong without provoking the change that you asked other people to join you in trying to create. There's nothing more worse or more hypocritical than that. Colin Kaepernick should be ashamed of himself.
Mike Evans had
ashamed of himself
to make an optimal choice, and he made a way suboptimal choice.
Mike Evans just realized he stood down because he realized he made a mistake. Colin Kaepernick is the flaming hypocrite. Flaming hypocrite.
The bottom line to the bottom line is your vote matters, and I hope that our country realizes this in hindsight of the election and does that moving forward. I know I sound like a Monday morning quarterback, but that's the truth.